Hey amigos, you're listening to Comedy Sheep Side Gig with me, Ignacio Lopez. This week I am talking to the first Welsh person to hold a WWE belt. This is Flash Morgan Webster. Fascinating story. I've never spoken to a wrestler in person before. Let's do it. Flash, first question I ask everyone, welcome to the podcast. Who the fuck are you and what do you do?
My name is Flash Morgan Webster. I'm a professional wrestler. One half of the first Welsh champions in WWE history.
Incredible.
And a former TNA World Tag Team Champion.
Wow. I mean, usually this next question is quite difficult for people to answer. I reckon it should be quite clear cut for you. If you had to describe your job to a 5-year-old, what would you say?
Oh, I'm a professional wrestler. Like, I know it sounds
they know what that is.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, it's like, you don't have to explain. Like if it's, a doctor or something, simple, clear-cut job. Professional wrestler, kids know what that is. They probably aspire to do it as well. When did you first get into wrestling?
I guess there's two parts to that, I guess. The first one would be, when did I discover wrestling? And I discovered wrestling when I was 9 years old. I always say that I watched the Royal Rumble and saw Scotty 2 Hotty and Rikishi dancing in the ring, and I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever seen. But then, like, when did I want to become a professional wrestler? No Way Out 2004, Brock Lesnar, Eddie Guerrero. Eddie Guerrero wins the WWE Championship. And I remember him jumping into the crowd with all his friends and family, and I just remember just thinking, like, this is what I want to do. I got goosebumps now. Just
thinking about it, man. Eddie Guerrero icon, man. That's about the era I watched wrestling. I think a lot of people fade in and fade out.
Yeah.
It's the same, I think, for people who try things like stand-up comedy and that. I reckon, a lot of people think of it as like growing out of something, but like, I think why not continue to be creative and enjoy that thing that you took passion from when you were a kid, So what was other than Eddie Guerrero, when was the first time you actually wrestled yourself? When did you get into it?
So I'm originally from Brynmawr, South Wales.
So you started wrestling pretty early then.
Yeah.
A lot of wrestling going on in Brynmawr.
Yeah. Well, funny you should say this. Like, there's only two wrestlers from Brynmawr, myself and the other one's Adrian Streets.
Okay.
I don't know if people know that. He's a wrestler from the 1960s. So when I first started getting into it, my granddad, mum, and saying, like, you can't get into that. I would just think, well, there was a wrestler 30 years before me that did the exact same thing, so why can't I? But how it started really was my friend Dan. I was in school and he said, I've got a friend called Mike who has a wrestling ring in his back garden. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is a dream come true.
Yeah,
the best
backyard wrestling,
exactly.
Man.
So I expected to go down there and see a ring like this. But what I saw was 4 sticks in the ground, some carpet on the floor, some hose pipe for ropes. I was so disappointed. But like I always say, I kind of went there that day and had the best time, and wrestling stole my heart then and just never gave it back. So
that's amazing, man. Are those sticks still up, do you reckon?
I don't know. His dad was pretty angry about the state of the garden, so I don't think so.
I think the first time I wrestled, obviously it wasn't any kind of like ring or stuff. We put down all of the sofa cushions.
Yep.
We laid them out across the whole living room, and I think it's got to be about 10 minutes into us like trying to imitate what we've been watching in those sort of same things, Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. You start off with the dancing, as ring entrance is an important part.
Yeah, it is.
Then we started throwing each other around, and my friend split his head on the radiator almost immediately. Game over. End of the, this is before we were watching the extreme wrestling stuff. So like blood was not a sight we were used to seeing as kids. So, who were your peers when you started out? Were there other people same age as you wrestling and stuff?
Yeah,
as well?
so we started off in Mike's back garden. From there, then really, there was another guy called Brendan White as well. Was in that back garden as well. Me and Mike went on to try professional wrestling, and me and Mike actually signed our WWE contracts on the exact same day.
Oh wow!
Which is wild. Like literally, I remember being at the O2 and being like, turning to him and being like, "Did you ever think when we were making those rings in your back garden we would be doing this?" And he was like, "It's just absolutely wild." Brendan kind of went away for a little bit and he didn't chase it, and then he had some health issues, overcame those, and he just thought to himself, "What do I want to do? I want to be a professional wrestler." So now he's gone on to become a professional wrestler as well. And along the way, then my first training session down in Newport, I met Mark Andrews, and Mark Andrews is the guy I won the tag team championships with in in Wales. But I always make a joke and say that Mike Hitchman's garden has produced more WWE featured wrestlers than the country of Belgium. So I always think that's really great.
We were talking about this earlier. Wales punches well above its weight in so many things.
Yeah.
Like we were saying, Port Talbot's kind of like, it's like an actor factory. You got like Richard Burton, Anthony Hopkins, Michael Sheen, and now this garden is the home of Welsh wrestling, man. That's wild. That's so cool. Did you do between any between starting out wrestling as a kid and obviously wrestling now, did you do any other kind of jobs in between?
Yeah, so I worked at my local Asda. My thought process was training was on a Sunday. I only had to work Saturdays. And then after I got past having to train on a Sunday, all the shows ended up being on a Saturday, and that became a big issue because I had to work on a Saturday.
Yeah.
So I did that. I then went to university. I've got a first class honours in fine art and visual concept.
That's amazing.
Yep. So
that's got to tie in really well.
Yeah,
People don't appreciate just how visual wrestling is, right? And
Yeah.
and you got to make everything yourself, especially when you're starting out.
It's performance art. It
Exactly.
really is. Yeah, it's performance art. So I got that, and then to make my mum happy and to make sure I had like a qualification behind me, I went and got a teaching degree. So I went and got qualified. And then I kind of did a little bit of substitute teaching while I was still wrestling on the side and doing bits and pieces. And then I got offered legitimately my first proper full-time teaching gig that I was going to take. And on the same week I got offered that, I got offered a tournament in Los Angeles called the Battle of Los Angeles.
Wow.
From PWG. And that was my ultimate goal. I never thought I'd get to WWE. I just thought that would be it.
Yeah.
And it was a choice between taking that and doing PWG. And luckily for me, I have a very supportive, at the time, girlfriend, now wife. And she said, yeah, go for it. And that was 2017.
Imagine she'd said no.
Yeah, I know. But that was 2017, September. And I've been a full-time professional wrestler ever since.
That's incredible.
So,
Congrats, man. That's amazing.
It.
I imagine there's people watching this right now kind of like, don't let my kid hear this because they don't necessarily want their kid
My mum still doesn't want to hear this.
When you were working at Asda, did they all know you were wrestling as well?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, because otherwise you're showing up with like bruises and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that because it's a physical sport, man? It's an intense thing. So like you're rocking up like with your stitches and the black eye and everything. What happened there? Mad situation over by the aisle 3 or whatever. That would be a good setting, I reckon, for a wrestling match. Would be a supermarket.
Oh, have you seen the Stone Cold and Booker T?
That's one of my favorites. Yeah, I think it's good.
Outstanding.
They trashed that place.
Fantastic.
But I feel sorry for the person who had to then go stack up those shelves after, like, putting through damages and stuff. Did you ever go direct from work Asda over to a wrestling session, like there in the the green uniform and stuff, zip up, ready to go?
Luckily not, but I did go a few times where I would just take the shirt off, chuck it in my locker, and then go to a wrestling show or whatever. And then, of course, I'd show up to work the next day only having one shirt and then putting on this creased, all mangled up shirt or
It's been mashed in the bottom there.
Yeah. Thick lip.
How long did you hold on to that job for?
Quite a while, to be fair. I think if anyone's ever worked retail, I think wrestling and retail go hand in hand. So I think people understand. But yeah, I think they were quite understanding until they weren't understanding.
Yeah. And did they actually make that decision for you then, or was it a case of you said like, look, I'm wrestling more and more, I'm gonna go do that instead?
It was sometimes they would make it very difficult for me, and then it was more I was looking to try to do the PGC, so I had this full-time backup.
Yeah.
And they were kind of very reluctant for me to do that. They were kind of like, I had to start uni at this point, and they were saying, you've got to work so many weeks in the summer. And I was like, well, I'm going to do this PGC. And they're like, if you do it, you won't have a job to come back to. So I left and went and did the PGC. And then that was like in the September, and in December, then they rang me, do you want to come back? And do this shit? But I said no at that point. I was done.
Yeah.
But
you're not going to have a job to go back to. But seriously, can you come back, please?
That's exactly it. 100% it.
Amazing stuff, man. When you were learning the teaching and stuff like that, did any of those aspects kind of help you out with because you're coaching wrestling now as well?
Yeah.
Right. So, what kind of did you take from those teaching lessons and learning how to teach into the coaching?
There was a teacher who came in once, and he once said that if you are struggling to get through to a child, it's not the child's fault. You're using the wrong teaching methods. That's what he said. And I remember him thinking like, well, first off, you've definitely not met some of the kids that I have met. But I think that like I've definitely had people come through these doors that have a different range of needs. Even though we do 16 upwards, there could be people that come through the door that are like their attention span isn't very great, so you've got to try to keep them engaged. There's people who have anxiety, there's people who struggle with depression and stuff like that, so it's about kind of keeping them motivated even when they don't feel being motivated. And then there's people come through the door who think they're going to make it, and they're 100%, and you've got to try to manage their expectations, the fact that you are going to fail. Like everything you do, you're going to be, failing is part of the process.
Sure.
And I tell them this when I come through, because I think we live in a world now where social media just highlights everybody's success.
Yeah.
It does all the time. And I say to them, like, you are going to fail. And they look terrified. And I go, but this is great. This is a comfortable place to fail. We'll celebrate you trying and you failing, and we'll celebrate it even more when you succeed and get through that. So it was more the case of him talking about those teaching methods and applying them to each one. And I try to use the first couple sessions to gauge their personalities, their needs, what they want and stuff like that from wrestling. And then I have to kind of tailor everything to them, broadly speak to them all. And then when everyone starts going off into their little groups and practicing stuff, I'll then, if I know that somebody's going to have it, I can see someone's going to have an issue before they even start.
Right.
And then I'll try to like float around them. And then when the issue arises, I'll do it. But that's the biggest one really, is making it tailor-made.
It's kind of, so how long have you been coaching wrestling for now?
Properly, so as a full-time coach, as in like doing it all the time, I think it's like 3.5 years. But I was like, from 2015, 16, I was traveling around and doing seminars and stuff like that. But it was something I always tried to stay away from. I just didn't want the pressure of what I felt was like being in charge of someone else's career. That was really scary. But it was more, I started training at another school before this one existed. And I could see, I don't want to speak badly, but I could see how little other people put in.
As coaches?
As coaches.
Okay.
And I was a bit like, oh, I can do better than this. Yeah. And they deserve better than this.
It's funny what a motivator it can be, seeing something and going and watching how it's done wrong.
Yeah.
Like often seeing something done wrong, you learn more than you would seeing it done right, because everything just seems like easy.
I say to the students, I go, your good matches will build confidence, but I said your bad matches will make you better wrestlers.
Yeah.
I say this to people all the time, is that you've got to have the bad ones because you'll learn what not to do. So it's like, I always say that people always just want to have good matches all the time. It's like, the good ones will build you confidence, but the bad ones, as I said, will make you a better wrestler because you'll learn what to do.
And the thing is, they come further. It's exactly like stand-up, man. The bad gigs, you learn so much from them like really early on.
From drowning, you've got to learn to swim,
and
haven't you? Yeah.
And you predominantly have them at the start of your career, because the bad gigs and the bad matches come less and less the longer you do it for, but those ones stick with you, man. I remember the bad ones more than I do the good ones. What's the worst match you've ever had? What's the worst I'm
trying to think. It's hard now. I've been doing this so long. I feel like, the good memories, which is a good thing, the good memories stick out more than the bad ones.
Yeah.
I was just saying before we came on, it's not so much the bad ones, but I used to, when I first started, it was like a proud thing of like, okay, I'm going to get through this match. I'm going to remember everything. I'm going to nail everything. Everything's going to be perfect. And I finally did that. And I was like, okay, I've had like 5 matches now where everything's gone perfect. And then of course stuff will go wrong. And so, whereas now my favorite thing is when stuff goes wrong and I've got to fix it. Like we had a match, I want to say it was like maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, me and my tag team partner, and halfway through the match, he tears his hamstring and he rolls out and he goes backstage. Now we could have just called the match and finished, but instead of that, then what I did is on the fly end up calling this 2-on-1 handicap match and just doing everything off the cuff without us.
Wow! So just you against the other two?
Just me against the other two, yeah.
Right.
And then we finished it. And I remember getting backstage and everyone being like, well, that was and I was more impressed with the fact that everyone's like, my God, that was really good.
Yeah.
Like I saw some fans write up going like, weird angle they did where his tag team partner got hurt and left, and they
as if it was pre-decided,
as if it was planned. Yeah, and I remember now it's more a case of like, I like stuff going wrong and then being able to, as long as everyone's okay and everyone's healthy, I like being able to fix those things.
Yeah, man, for
because
sure.
Then that's a superpower. Then it's like you don't when you're new. Oh, what if I get it wrong or I forget stuff? Now I'm like, it doesn't matter. Like we'll figure it out. It's fun.
Man, that's what experience brings you as well,
yes.
right? So the more you do something, the better you get at it. The more you can sort of color outside the lines and create something interesting out of the chaos. Sometimes,
yeah, out of the chaos
of what happens. So I mean, the fans writing in saying, weird angle he took, as if like they faked like an injury because he had a shift in Asda to go finish or something.
I've been there.
Nice, man. Well, what's one of the best occasions? What's the moment you think it really clicked and you stood outside yourself for a moment, potentially in the ring, and just thought, yes, I've made it. This is exactly what I wanted to be doing.
I think where it clicked for me was like early doors. I think if anyone's ever seen any of my stuff, my look has changed as I've got older. But when I first started out, I was like the mod father of professional wrestling. Kind of a lot of my look and image was based off that 1960s, 1980s mod culture. But I was still just in these paisley trunks with my boots and stuff like that. And I remember seeing that famous image of the Who where they're in those Union Jack blazers.
Sure.
And I remember just seeing it and going like, that's such a good image. And then I saw something of Liam Gallagher, and he was in this lovely suit and he had pinstripe trousers, and I was like, could I get away with making it look like I'm wearing pinstripe trousers, but they're actually tights? And then I thought about every wrestler puts their tights inside their boots, and I was like, what if I put the tights over the boots so it looks like I'm actually wearing Chelsea boots?
Right.
And I put this Union Jack on, and I remember speaking to the wife and I bounced ideas off her. She's really good because she hates wrestling. She doesn't hate it. She appreciates it, but she doesn't really like it, which I love because it means you're not in an echo chamber. Then I can bounce stuff off her. And I remember telling her this idea, and she was going, I don't know. And there was one of those ones I was adamant about it. I was like, I think it'll look good. So I ordered this jacket and got it. And I remember putting it on, and I put it on, and she saw me. She went, oh my God. And I was like, this is what's been in my head for months. And I put it on, and I walked out for this match. It was a weekend where I had two biggish matches. One was in Cardiff, and then the other one was in the Electric Ballroom in Camden.
Oh, cool.
And I remember walking out on that first one, and I just felt like I was Liam Gallagher walking out on stage and being like this. And I remember loads of people saying like, something's changed. He's become a completely different animal. And I think it was because once I'd found that image and that look, I was able to fully step into what I believed Flash Morgan Webster needed to be and who he was. And I think since then, it's just kind of being able to step up, because it went from me playing a part to me being that
just
part.
embodying it.
Yes, I think it was, yeah.
So it's surprising what the physicality of something can do. Like just having that outfit and just projecting, this is what people are seeing, and then embodying that and making it happen, 100%. Man. That's exciting. That's cool. What's so where's your missus from?
From Stafford, so down the road.
All right.
Yeah.
So I was going to ask, how the fuck did you end up in Stoke?
There's only two reasons anyone ever goes anywhere, isn't it?
Yeah, there we go.
It's level money.
People ask me all the time why I moved from Mallorca, and originally it was my mom and school and stuff, but now I got a Welsh girlfriend at home. So yeah, that's why. If anyone's watching, that's why I'm in Wales now.
I reckon it was all those pubs popping up. You're like, do you know what? I really like those British pubs. I want to see more of those.
I got a flavor for it. Yeah, man, that's what it is. I wanted to go to the source and see what they were. It's the same, but in the rain. It's cool. Have you ever done? What's been the worst injury you've ever kind of had in the ring?
So I've had 2 shoulder surgeries, and I guess the worst one would be. So I had a match against a guy called Zack Sabre Jr. Zack is out in Japan now. Zack is a former 2-time WGP Heavyweight Champion, so that's for New Japan. So we had a match, me and him, for a cruiserweight qualifier for the WWE Cruiserweight Classic. So the first time WWE would ever look at me, and this again was in Camden. And this is all online, so people can go have a look at this. This is on YouTube, this full match. I think maybe the match is 12 minutes long. 3 minutes into the match, I take a kick to my ankle, and my ankle breaks. I think I've just sprained it. So I continue. There's a moment where I dive through the ropes, and I'll do a dive, and I land back on my feet again, and you can see me mouth the words "fuck." But it's getting worse. It's getting
captions
worse.
on the YouTube video. I want to see if it comes up as fuck.
It gets worse. So it does get worse. So that happens, and again, I've got my boot on, so I just think it's sprained. Just go get through it. Biggest match of my career. Just get through it. So that's about 4 minutes in, and then I think maybe about 8 minutes in, I go for a running shooting star press. So that's where you run and you make yourself backflip, you travel forward. But I try to push off that right ankle, and it's obviously, I have no power there. So as I push off, I can't get around, so I try to twist. And I land on my shoulder, and it pops out of the socket. Now, that pops out probably minute 7 or 8. The match goes on for another 5 minutes. In this time, I'm doing front flips off the top. I'm doing all these moves. Shoulder is completely out the socket. Surgeon even said to me afterwards when he was looking at it, like, he watched the video, this stuff you're doing right now is not possible. I don't know how you're doing it. It sounds great now. At the time, it was awful.
Yeah, of course.
But I remember getting backstage and Zach went like, "You okay? You weren't there for a few things. You were right." And I was like, on my shoulders out. And he's like, and then I had to go get it put back in. And that was probably another 2 or 3 hours later. It finally went back in. And my ankle, because I went there with my shoulder, I didn't even think about my ankle really. I just said that my ankle was hurt, and they just kind of like, they didn't even x-ray it. They put it in a boot and stuff like that. It wasn't for a few days later that it actually started really killing me. And, the wife was like, "I think you should probably mention this to them." And I went there, and they've got a double stress fracture on your ankle as well. So walked out that match with a double fractured ankle and about shoulder. I think it was that one actually. So I think actually it was like this side and this side. So I couldn't even do anything in the house. It was awful. And I was out for a year, and that went from being like first time WWE saw me, and I was out for a whole year. And the most heartbreaking thing I think about it was during that year out, loads of my friends who were really close from wrestling got signed by the WWE during that time.
You thought you'd missed your chance.
I did 100% thought I'd completely missed my chance. Just watched everyone. I remember they did the first UK tournament in the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool, and I'm maybe like 2-3 weeks out of the sling. I'm just sat in the audience watching. Like, there's a bit where I think they pan to us at one point. I'm the point where it's so fresh out. My arm is still just like this. Like, well, I'm not in a sling, but I'm still just like this because I'm obviously still scared about it. But yeah, that's the worst injury I've ever had, and I've had to have a second surgery since then. It's been good since then, touch wood. But yeah, that's the worst one.
Fuck, man, it's brutal when something like that makes you feel like you've lost an opportunity through putting your body through something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, you just powered through what? Adrenaline kept you going?
Must have been. Yeah, I think it was that or stupid pride or.
Yeah, well, I mean, also as well because they're there watching, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I've got to see this through.
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Yeah.
Even if it's killing my
I tell all the students now, I go, you get hurt, you stop and just like, it's not worth it. Like
Yeah.
I look back, you idiot, you shouldn't have done it. But then like me being off that year for that injury probably was the best thing that happened to me then, because again, that performance degree, fine art, I was able to step out of that echo chamber of hearing what everyone thought wrestling should be.
Sure.
And watch what everyone else was doing and how's he getting over, what's he doing wrong, why is he not connecting, why is she doing so good, and then kind of like steal a look from there, and then change the look up a little bit. And
yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I think as well sometimes those opportunities that you miss can help, like you said, you reformulate something, you go out there with something stronger.
Yeah.
What was the hardest thing about being laid up, other than seeing obviously people seemingly do great?
I think it's just it's the worry if anyone's ever like, even though it is a lot of performance, it is a lot of sport as well. So I think a lot of athletes would tell you after they've had injury, you come back wondering, can I be as good as I was?
Yeah, am my muscles going to work as well as
exactly.
they did?
That's exactly it. So I think that's the hardest thing is that worry of like, I remember the first time having to, like, we call break fall in bumps. So the first time I had to take a bump again and I had to throw that arm back and land.
So this is a year after you've done it?
Yeah, probably about 8 months. I probably like 8 months into that first bump, and then I had to kind of like, from there, then that's the building block of rebuilding everything else. And I remember doing it and being there for ages, just terrified like to land. And I did. And then after you get all that first one, it gets easier after that. But I think that's the first. That's it. You kind of, when you're younger, before you had injury, you're invincible. Like you can't, like I'd done loads of stuff, especially in the backyard. You just did all these mad things in the backyard, never got hurt. And like,
get the 4x4.
Exactly, everything, some mad stuff. And then like we do all these dives off that top post into loads of people and land on my back and still get up and be fine and be like, this is great. And then the moment that happens, like not mortality, but yeah, I guess sporting mortality almost comes in like, this I can get hurt. And this.
Who were you training under at that time? Was there somebody kind of like putting you through the ropes, so to say?
So I initially trained in Wales with a promotion called Dragon Pro. That then, of course, became New Wave. That mutated almost into like New Wave Newport, and then it's been the branch off everything else we've done. But I always say that I had like 6 to 7 months of really training there, and then I went to university, and I kind of learned a lot on the road. I was very, very fortunate that maybe about 6-7 months into becoming a professional wrestler, I met a young man called Pete Dunne. Pete Dunne is now in the WWE, still wrestles there. He's a producer. at the WWE as well, which means he helps put matches together and helps do shows and stuff like that. But I met him when I was 18 and he was 14, I want to say. But you met this kid when he was 14, and he was like a little prodigy. Like, he understood the tempo and stuff, and he understood how stuff worked. And I can remember just like watching this 14-year-old go up to like 20-year-old, 30-year-old men and tell them how to put match together, and being like,
who's this little shit?
But it was literally all of him, like the confidence he had it and stuff like that. And he would do stuff or say, I'll try it this way, and he would be right, and he'd be like, oh my God, this is great. So I feel like, as much as I say maybe I had a coach, I was very fortunate really to meet almost like this prodigy Pete Dunne, and kind of be able to jump in the car. And he was in Birmingham and I was in Wolverhampton, and he would then like message me going, you free this weekend? And I'd be like, yep. He goes, got you a show, meet us here and we'll get like, and he was hustling as well. So I just kind of lucked out because like at the time I couldn't drive and stuff like that. So I would, he had somebody who, again, knew somebody who could drive, and he gets in the car with them and he take us up and down. So I was learning on the road, really.
It sounds a lot like stand-up. I find this more and more. The more people I speak to, is kind of like, you know, you're going through like an apprenticeship almost.
Yeah.
And you're kind of doing gigs. You're on the lineup with, you know, people you've never met before, and you just got to jump in the deep end.
Yeah.
When you're wrestling first up, and these shows on the road that people have put together, do you know the person you're going to be wrestling up against all the time?
Sometimes not. Sometimes you've heard their name, or you've heard good things, or sometimes you show up and you have no idea who they are. And it is just about like, it's about, again, as you said, learning. You must be the same with stand-up. Like, you might have somebody on the bill who's a little bit more advanced than you. Yeah. And then you might go out there and you might tell a joke the one night and it slaps, and you tell it the next night, it doesn't get it. But then that person might be on the same bill twice and be like, the reason it worked last night is because you did this. And you go, oh, that makes total sense. And then you remember that. And that's how it is with wrestling, really. You might be there and you might do one of your moves one night, gets a great reaction. You do the next night and it doesn't. And you're there trying to figure out why. And then hopefully then you go up to somebody who's a little bit more experienced and you go, hey, can I grab some feedback? Yeah. Can I get some advice or whatever? And you go, oh, I watched it. Or can you... The big thing is really going up to people more advanced than you and going, hey, do you mind if you watch my match? And then they'll watch it, and that endears you to people as well. If a young wrestler comes up to me and goes, hey, can you watch my match? That tells me you care. Yeah, for sure. So then I want to help them, because there's so many people out there that they're afraid of feedback. They don't want to be told. They want to be given the good stuff. They don't want to be given the bad stuff. Yeah,
and criticism, you're not going to get better if you just hear.
You're not.
You said about echo chambers, man. If you just got yes men in your ear all the time, you're incredible, you're amazing.
You're never going to get it.
You're set up to fall then, really, aren't you?
100%. And that's kind of where I was kind of fortunate to be there with this little shit Pete Dunne who would be like, he didn't care. He'd be like, no, did that wrong. We appreciate it. But that's how it is. It's like kind of being there. And
I think everyone needs a Pete Dunne in
their life. Everyone needs a Pete Dunne in their life.
Is there a move in particular that you always saw as something you wanted to be able to accomplish, that you saw as the first sort of because that salt you were telling me about, where you kind of going forward while you're springing back, was there anything that it took you a while to kind of learn? Is there a particular move that kind of you remember as being difficult?
For me, like I remember seeing like the 450. So the 450 is you're on the top rope and you front flip all the way back around past your feet, back onto your front into a splash. And I remember being like, this is it. This is the move. Like, I want to learn this. I saw Hayabusa do it and stuff like that. I was like, I want to learn this. And then I remember learning it and then seeing Jack Evans do a 630, which is a double front flip. And then, of course, 16-year-old me is like, you can go around again? What the hell's going on? So for a while, it was like you get on a trampoline and you practice like doing this double front flip. Sure. And then you like going, I'll try it in some foam pits. And then eventually then you get up on the top rope and it's terrifying now because there's nothing there.
Nothing spongy down there.
Nothing spongy down there, whatever. But that was it for me. It was like...
I think people put drawing pins down there. What's going on?
But I just remember, like, I think there was only, before me, maybe there was like one other British wrestler that had done it. And I think it was Pac, Adrian Neville, whatever. He's in AEW now. And he'd done it and he'd go off to America. So my brain's like, well, if I can nail this, I'll be the only, like... other British wrestler at the time who can do it. There's other British wrestlers since me, obviously, and that can do it more now because everything moves on. But for me, for ages, it would be like the 630. And it helped, to be fair, because some people would see that, and then I'd get put onto shows just for people to want to see that, just to see that move.
That kind of, wow. I'd be there with a calculator, trying to figure out, because you said like, what was it, 450?
450 is onto your front, and then 630, so a double front flip, and you land back on your back.
I can just about, I think, manage a 6. See, I could probably just... I'm not spinning that much, man. That's impressive, though, man. But that was the one for you that you were like, I want to accomplish this.
To me, it was just like, I thought it would just set me. Like, there's loads of high flyers out there. Like my tag team partner, Mark Andrews, one of the best high flyers this country's ever produced. Yeah. Shooting star presses, shooting cents and stuff like that. Like, I can backflip, but I'm nowhere near as good a backflip as he is. Okay. But I was a bit like, but I can front flip pretty well. So I'm going to go the other way.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. So yeah, 630 would be the one.
Would you have any, when you're kind of like learning how to work with a tag team partner and stuff, you're developing moves. Is there anything like joint kind of thing you worked out together? You thought, oh, this is going to make us both kind of look different. You do like combined moves together?
Yeah, we've got a few combined moves together, but the biggest thing is just kind of being on the same page. The number of times when we first started, like people think this is like tagging is easy. My God, the amount of you just miss people. They do because you just like it happens.
It's a day-to-day thing, man. Like just something as simple as like shaking. So every time you hit the stage as a comic, you're usually shaking hands with the MC, right?
I can already see this is.
So people are either like you'll go in like this, somebody will go in for a fist bump, or like somebody will go in for like a slap or whatever, and you just miss so many kind of like it can be very awkward. Sometimes, obviously, because of COVID as well, that popularized the elbow, like people bumping elbows and stuff. So I've taken a few elbows. I'm not a wrestler, but I've had a few elbows in my ribs, a couple of times. Like, I thought we were gonna that's gotta be the worst start to hitting the ring,
especially with us being like good guy wrestlers too. Like, and this is silly, but like bad guys can mess up and everyone laughs at them and like, shut up. But if you're supposed to be like, we're a really good tag team, and like, so it's that sort of stuff. And then it's like getting in and out the ring. Like if I tag you in tag team wrestling, tag team means like you tag, and then I've got to get out the ring, he's got to get in. But if I want to go where you are and you're there, who comes out first? Who gets it? Like, so that sort of stuff.
Which rope you're going through?
Yeah. You don't think about those things. Nobody thinks about you. Like when you first tag, you don't think about those things, and the wheels quickly come off.
Yeah.
And then you can really kind of see. So it's that sort of stuff, or it's being able to like tag the partner in and them knowing what you want next or where you go next. So it took us a while to get that. And it's also just having the same pacing as well. So I always say, like, me and Mark, it always felt like, especially when we were backstage, it took us a while to kind of figure out how we work as a team in the sense of like, what should we do, where we should do it. But I always felt like once we were in the ring, our pacing was very similar, and the way we kind of moved and did stuff was very similar. So that was quite good. But we do have one move which is quite cool. So a reverse Hurricane Rana is where if I'm stood here, somebody would jump onto my shoulders and they'll rag me backwards onto my head pretty much. But we do that, but as Mark jumps on their shoulders, I run and jump and knee the person in the face, and then Mark will spin them over to their head. So we call that the Blitz knee bop. That's what we call it.
The Blitz knee bop.
Yeah.
I like it, man. Yeah, that's funky. I'd definitely be the knee person over the. I can't do the flip. You're the knee guy. Okay. That's the Brynmawr in you.
It is. That's the Valley's boy in me.
Nice, man. You've traveled, obviously, that was a big step, you going to Los Angeles that time, right? Traveled all over the world. Mm-hmm. What's the most exciting place you went to that you enjoyed the most?
I love Canada. I've been to Canada multiple times this week. I really love Canada. It's where we won the TNA tag team belts, so that was huge. And Canada just feels like America, where it just feels really friendly and nice.
I was going to say, that's the one word. Yeah,
friendly. It feels very friendly. And then when we went to Seattle, I felt like Seattle's just across the border from Canada. That feels very Canadian.
Okay.
But then also being able to be there and kind of see where Nirvana started and Pearl Jam and stuff like that.
It's where grunge grew up.
Yes, exactly. It's where it blew up. So being able to see all that was really cool because I love my music and stuff like that. So loved that. But even just stuff like, I've been to Helsinki and wrestled in Finland, and I would never thought to have gone to Finland, but I wouldn't have. And then we
Finnish tourist board, sort it out.
I never would have even thought about going to Finland. I went in, I loved it. It was great. It was fantastic. So I got to do that. I'm trying to think now off the top of my head. I've been to New York multiple. But I say this a lot of time with wrestling. You must find it when you go certain places. People go, "Oh, what's that place like?" And you just see the inside of the venue.
Yeah,
that's literally it.
I arrive at night. I leave first thing in the morning for the next thing. I can tell you what the inside of the hotel was like. That's about it.
That's exactly it. Yeah. So I've been to New York multiple times, but me and the wife went to New York for our honeymoon. I think it was like last year or whatever, and it was the first time I went and just did tourist stuff. And I think it's my favorite holiday I've ever had.
Great.
Because it was really nice, and I've got a good coaching team here, so I was able to leave Mark Haskins in charge, and Mark kind of really held the ground when it came to this, and I didn't have to worry about it. But it was nice to actually see. So New York's incredible if you've never been to New York. But
when I went to New York with my girlfriend, I had broken my foot like
That's not a good place.
it's not a good place. It's, you know, walking
Walking
around New
holiday,
York is
yeah.
not the place to be on crutches.
It's like going to Disneyland. It's not a good place.
But that whole, you know, you said you went to the doctor and like you didn't know about your ankle, right? You thought you'd sprained it. I'd never broken a bone before, so I assumed I'd sprained my ankle or something, and I'd snapped metatarsal in my foot, right? So I go to the doctor expecting it to just be like not an issue. My girlfriend's already in America. She's been working out there, and I'm going to fly to meet her over like in 2 days' time. And the doctor was like, "Yeah, you've broken your foot." I was like, "Okay." So they stick me in plaster. And then they were, and I was like, "Is this going to affect me going to New York?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, you can't fly to New York." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Well, I mean," they were like, "You're in plaster. You can't get on a plane with plaster." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to New York." And they're like, "No, you can't." I said, "No, you're not understanding me. I'm going. If I have to rip this off and crawl through airport security, like I'm getting on that plane." So they were like, "Right, cut the plaster off," and they put me in like a temporary boot. Yeah, which was more painful, of course. Probably didn't help the healing process, but it meant I could go to New York on crutches the whole time.
Do you enjoy New York?
I had a blast, man. I had a great time, especially because everyone assumed I was like a veteran or something because I was injured. So like front of the line. Stolen valor. I apologize, guys, for that. No, I told them it was. I'd heard because it was true. I'd played a charity football match, but out in the States, obviously, football's a different thing. So when I told them I'd hurt my foot playing football, they were like, "Oh," and they just assumed I was like
big manly man.
Yeah. And I was like, "No, I've been dribbling."
Oh, soccer.
Soccer. Yeah. Are there any differences between? Are there any kind of like language issues? Because obviously American and Canadian English, and in terms of wrestling, like, is there any terms that are different from place to place?
Yeah, there's a few. I feel like I always say that I feel wrestling's a bit of a universal language. So even outside of the English-speaking countries, like you've got Mexico who do like lucha libre and they're fantastic at it, and then you've got Japanese wrestlers that do puro and stuff like that. But even stuff like that, I feel like it does cross over. I wrestled some Mexicans. They came over for an event recently, about 2 years ago, and they didn't have good English at all, and we still had a decent match with them and stuff like that. But yeah, there's just little things like we'll say if somebody hits the ropes and you like dive towards their feet, we call that a sleep. Over there, they call that a drop down. So if you said, "Oh, sleep," they wouldn't have a clue. And I think it's because like the next thing from there is usually people leap. So I think we like to like, you know, sleep, leap. Like we like that sort of thing. Yeah. Whereas they'll be like drop down, leapfrog. And so you say sleep to them, and it's like they haven't got a clue and stuff like that. So yeah, some of that stuff, it does happen. But I think it's a case of when you either learn it the hard way when you're in there and you're saying those words and they haven't got like, I don't know what you're saying. Or you're backstage and you've spoke to them a little bit and they go, "Oh,
and you
okay."
picked up on it.
Yeah, you picked up on it early doors. Sometimes I've been there and you've watched other people talking and they've said something and then the other wrestler hasn't picked up on it. And I'm sat there going, should I go clue them up on whether this is, or is this going to be more entertaining? Or should I get all the boys to come around and watch from the curtain? I'm trying to figure that out or whatever. But usually I'll be like, yeah, like, are they on before me or are they on after me? Because if they're on before me, then I could really look good if they mess up. So, but no, usually I play the good guy, and you catch more flies with honey. So I try to be, nice.
Try to be a good dude, man. Yeah, that's fair. That makes sense. Is there anyone, and you can name them and we can beep it out if you want. Has there been anyone that's been like a fucking nightmare to work with?
I don't know if I can. You know what? I could if I wasn't a coach like where I am in my career. I think I would be like this person. Sure. But it's more the worry of like I could just have a bad experience with one person, and then somebody else could wrestle with somebody, and it could be great.
I get that.
And there's a lot of, as I said, now I am in charge of people's careers. Yeah. I'd rather not make their life more difficult because they come from me and stuff like that. But anyway, it was no.
I'll tell you a couple of things that people have done that can kind of fuck you over as a comic sometimes, and I'd be interested to learn if there's equivalence in wrestling, right? So, I mean, most of the time, 90% of people you just get on with, everyone's fine, okay? And like you said, sometimes somebody could be having a bad day. Like, there's people out there who probably think I'm a total asshole because I had a bad morning or whatever, and I've gone out and maybe said something that got on somebody's nerves.
So you're not an asshole?
No, man, no. Okay, it's just the character I play. I'm a heel, man. That's what it is, you know? But like, I'll go, so sometimes somebody will mess you up by, I've heard stories, I'm not going to name the comedian on the podcast, but there's a comic who's very successful that early in their career, they used to go on, and whoever was performing after them, they do a lot of the same type of material as that act was going to do. So they'd like walk up to them, they'd be like, they'd be like, oh, what are you going to talk about in your set? And they'd say, oh, well, I'm going to talk about being a new dad. I'm going to talk about this. I got jokes about that. And I'd be like, okay. And then they'd go up as the host and do like 15, 20 minutes of killer stuff just to make themselves look better. And the problem is, and this is it, like there's two types of comics. There's people who understand it's a team sport, and the night being better and everyone doing well makes for a better occasion, and everyone will leave there going like, we had a great show, we enjoyed all the comedians. And there's the people out there who are just like, I want to be the star of the show, you know, I want to look the best. So what you're saying about like, you know, you warning people like, oh, look, you're going to mess up there, or this is going right, because you want the whole thing to be a decent experience, right? But is there any ways that like a wrestler could fuck with somebody if they wanted to?
Yeah, we kind of try our hardest. Like usually you'll have a team talk or whatever before a show happens. So the promoter will grab everybody, and usually you'll run from the top of the card down, main event being the most important, and everyone go down. And they usually just say, is there anything you want us to avoid?
Okay.
So let's say the main event is like, yeah, we've got a big near fall pile driver, big kick out of that. So can we stay away from pile drivers? Then maybe someone who's match 3 could be like, hey, we were going to do a pile driver. Do you mind if we finish with that? And then person would be like, oh, that's great, because the match will finish with a pile driver. So then later on, when I kick out of it, I look great. We can do that with us, no issues. So usually everyone's pretty good and everyone's kind of understood. And then everyone knows what's going on. And if anyone kind of says something in that team talk, and then the next person then decides to just shit on them and go, fuck, I'm just gonna do a pile driver and do the kickouts. Which could, again, probably does happen. Yeah. Where I think we're fortunate enough that maybe the promoters then would be annoyed by the fact that...
And I'm not going to book this guy again.
Because he's hurt my main event, my champion, who I've kind of built up and stuff like that. So we try to avoid that. So I think it's become more of a team thing. I guess the difference with you guys in stand-up is you don't really need to work with me. Like, you can be on a show with me, but your act is your act.
You're up there by yourself, yeah.
If I piss off people on the way up... or if I piss off people when I'm on the top, I've got to wrestle them on the way back down. So it's like you really do need to kind of be as tactile and understand that this is a team. Even though you are an individual brand, it is a team sport.
Yeah, man.
Because you have to work together.
The thing is, you can't be in that wrestling ring solo. You know, there's nobody's going to come and watch a wrestler do a solo match.
But also as well, like if me and you wrestled, like your life and my life are in each other's hands. The stuff we do is super dangerous. Like I get picked up and I get dropped on my head. And I've got to know that you were going to do that. You're going to drop your head safely.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is where the comparison between wrestling and stand-up finish. Like there is no risk of me being dropped on my head wrong. You know, in a comedy, in a stand-up gig or whatever.
But that's why it's important, because you've got to make sure that, like, imagine if you go in there with somebody who you've pissed off. Yeah, you've got a chance then that they could decide off. I'm just gonna take liberties. That could happen.
Yeah, man.
And you don't want that.
Have you, in terms of fandom, because obviously you know you've got a fan base and people who kind of like follow you around, they want to see you do well, you know, around the world sometimes as well. When did you first sort of start to get people notice, like, oh, I've got people who give a shit about me, like, and they're following me around and they want to know what I'm up to next and things? When did this happen?
Probably there was like a British wrestling boom around about 2015, 2016. This was a talk about the Electric Ballroom. There used to be a promotion called Progress Wrestling. They would run the Electric Ballroom, which is it was 800 people, and they would sell that 800 people out in about 2 hours. Oof. So that was, and then they also did 3 nights at Ali Pali. They also did Wembley Arena with 5,000 people. So that was just a British independent company.
That's wild.
Yeah, wild. And then there's a company up in Scotland that did the Hydro, and they had like 6,000 people in. Independent promotion again, all run from there. So that's kind of like when the Cruiserweight Classics started happening, and WWE started watching the British scene, because I think they started going, well, what's going on in Britain? Yeah. So that's when like Twitter and Instagram all started kind of like blowing up. I was signed with the WWE for like 4-5 years. And I still think I got majority of my fans and all my followers on all my social media was before I got to WWE.
Wow, okay.
Because the boom just became this thing.
And it's grassroots as well.
Yeah, it's grassroots, and everyone wanted to be able to support that. But it would be the case of like, I'd put a t-shirt on sale, and then I'd be like, at first point I'd sell like on the big cartel, I sold 10 t-shirts. And then I'd put it up and say, hey, there's a pre-order that's running for a week, and then I'd sell 100 t-shirts in that week and be like, oh, okay. And that's when you think about it, it's like a lot of people will like you and they will support you, but the moment you ask people to give you money or actually like support you that way, that's where people go, oh, I don't like you that much. Yeah. So when people are willing to buy a t-shirt that's £20 and you can ship it over to them.
I talk about this a lot, man. There's you know, people with, you know, huge followings online, but are those people buying tickets necessarily, or
That's it.
are they willing to invest in that person? And I think, like you were saying, like starting out outside of like the huge TV stuff like WWE and that kind of environment, like you build this fan base and people feel invested in you.
Yes.
Like they're the ones who follow you to the ends of the earth, you know.
Yeah.
Like the people who, you know, I've gigged in Stoke, the people who've seen me in like a little bar above a pub, you know, a comedy club above a pub, they're the ones who remember me long after any television stuff's gone out and things. And they'll be the ones who come see me every time. They'll be the first people to buy tickets. You need to get your fans from everywhere, I think.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
What was your first T-shirt? What did it have on there?
I think it was like a Fred Perry ripoff. And I don't know if you got that Fred Perry one that says like Fred Perry, and it has the laurel crest like there, the laurel wreath, and it has original since I can't remember was it 1958? I had one that had like Morgan Webster, and it had like a knockoff laurel wreath, and it said unoriginal since I think it's 2009.
That's good, man. Did you design it yourself as well?
I did. Yeah, luckily
the degree came in handy.
The degree, yeah. I can graphic design and stuff like that. So
Same, man.
lucky, yeah.
I've designed always my own merchandise.
Yeah.
People are like, who does your merch? I was like, I drew that picture of myself as a Star Wars character. Like, you know, I'm pretty happy to do that.
Saves you money.
It saves me a fortune, especially when you're starting out. You know,
Yeah,
people, it's very handy. What's been the do you sell merchandise at the end of the matches and stuff?
Yeah, even like during the intermission, like the golden spot, if I'm totally honest, the golden spot is the one before the intermission. Okay. So like we have like maybe 6 matches on the card, being number 3, and then there's a break, and then that's the one, because after the show's over, a lot of people like, I've got to go get the train, I've got to go back to my hotel, the people want to go out drinking, but like they can't go anywhere during the intermission. They can only come to the merch table. So that's the golden one. You have a banger of a match at number 3, and
you're right in their mind as well. Like they just saw you.
Yeah,
know?
banger of a match.
It's like in stand-up, the sweet spot in stand-up tends to be the middle of the show, because people, I mean, same with wrestling, I imagine. Like people are drinking, right?
Yes.
This is typically a drinking event. You don't want them too drunk.
Nope.
You don't want them fed up. You don't want them to see the whole show. You want them a little bit, bit of atmosphere and stuff. So that middle spot is the sweet point.
Exactly.
Before the break. Clear more merch as well. This is what I should be telling my students as well. I don't teach so much anymore, but I used to teach a bit of stand-up and things, which was good. And Josie did a comedy course with me, which was fun. It was like an 8-week course. And what you're saying about like those students coming in and certain ones thinking like, oh, I'm going to make it, or I'm going to do this. And it's not about wearing them down, but about making them understand like the difficulties of it.
The expectations, yeah.
Expectation, like that's everything. And also letting them know that like when they come into the class, after you taught a few of them, you realized you could spot exactly what type of student somebody was going to be coming in there. What's a dream student for you when somebody comes in? What's the ideal kind of person you know is going to make an impact?
I think it's passion. Passion's the real one. Sometimes they show up, and if they love wrestling, like that really helps. Like because sometimes I think people are like, I kind of like it, and it's like, you probably not, unless you're going to start to love this, like getting dropped on your back and your heads. Like you've got to love this. You really have. So I think it's that one. Like honestly, from a learning standpoint, maybe it's the same with you guys. It's like young, like if they're young, they really are just sponges. Like we have 2 lads here at the moment. One's called Kyle George, and he's 17, and he's so much better than I was at 17. Like he's so good. And then there's another lad called Lewis, hasn't had his first match yet, but Lewis has just turned 18, and he's 18, has like 170k back squat, which I can't even get anywhere with his numbers, and he's only 18, and he just learns. And I like, maybe my mum was ill recently, and I wasn't here for 2 weeks, and I came back after those 2 weeks, and he was in one of the classes, and I was like, he's like a different wrestler after 2 weeks, and I'm like, so sometimes the younger ones, the better, but then it's just the ones that just, honestly, the ones that don't give up are the ones, because I was speaking to one of the coaches recently, the number of guys who've come through the school, when they first come, you're a bit like, okay, like, all right, we'll see. And then they try, and they're not very good at the stuff. And then after about 6 months, they're getting pretty good, and you're a bit like, oh, you've really stuck this out. And I think if you stick it out past that really awkward period of not being able to do the rolls, not being able to run the ropes, not being able to do the bumps, if you get past that, because that's the boring stuff, really.
Yeah.
When you start to do the cool moves, and then you're like, oh, like you're in now. Like we've got you, we've got you, because you've got through all the boring stuff. So it's really
it's the perseverance, really.
Passion
and perseverance.
Passion, that's the 2 things. Yeah.
With relation to kind of, even though when you're learning necessarily, like you said, the boring stuff, that's potentially what puts some people off from continuing it. Is there points later on where people like plateau? Is there kind of like moments where they're not stepping up like the level that they kind of want to, and that puts people off as well?
Yeah, I think there's only so much we can do in here. I try to give people like the best introduction into wrestling. We always say that with New Wave. We try to give people the best introduction into wrestling. Safe place to train, safe place to fail. Making sure that when you have your first matches, you're in there with experienced wrestlers who can help you and guide you and keep you safe. But I think you'll have a really good introduction into wrestling. But the wrestling scene on the whole is such a wide scene. There's some good parts, there's some bad parts. And it's the fact they will go out there, as I said before, and they will have bad matches. And I want to see, and I want them to have their bad matches early doors, because the worst thing people can do is have 50 brilliant matches, and then 51 is a train wreck. And then they just feel like, oh my God, and they feel really sad about it, because I'm a bit like, that's when it could break you, because you're like, this is not for me, because I don't like this aspect of it. Whereas if you get the bad matches out the way first and you realize that like this is part of the job and you like that, like I can have it, and next week I can have a good one, and that's it. I think that's the stuff where they can plateau. It's when they realize that there's only so much I can do here, and then you've got to be out in front of a crowd, and you've got to be able to like channel that in. Because someone could be really good wrestlers and they'll just give nothing to the crowd at all. Yeah, and it's like you've got to be a showman or showwoman, whatever. Yeah.
How much would you say is that kind of like showman and the persona and the walking into the ring, getting the crowd involved? Do you teach that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah.
How much of it is, do you think, performance to wrestling ability? Like how much do you think is important? Is it 50-50 or?
It's so hard. Like some people will have a certain style of wrestler. Like they'll be a little bit more legit, a little bit more technical, a little bit more hard hitting. And that persona of them walk into the ring and just looking like they're hard can just add so much. People like walk in the room, people go like, and that will draw the crowd in. They'll watch closely. They'll watch the kicks they do. They'll watch everything. And it feels more hard hitting, more real, more aggressive, more gritty. But then there's other people whose wrestling style might be a little bit more theatrical. And the entrance, like maybe like 70% of what they do is the entrance, and people want to sing along to the music, and people want to see that entrance. They're paying for that. So I think it all just comes down to it's a variety show. If every wrestler was the same,
it'd be boring.
It would be boring. So you need that. You need that variety show. You need the ones that are going to make people laugh and people engage and stuff like that.
What's your walk-in music?
So we've got like a custom one now. But when I was on the independents, I came out to In the City by The Jam.
Oh, great.
So yeah, that was that one. And then some places would send me out to Town Called Malice by The Jam because they thought that was better. But it was always The Jam, yeah.
Nice, man. So with the custom one now, did you have to pick like the two of you together, like through, or did somebody write it and give you like compose it specifically for you guys? How did that work?
Yeah, we sent them Rage Against the Machine. It wasn't Killing in the Name of. Is it the Bull? What's the Bull one? I can't remember.
Oh,
Bulls on Parade.
Bulls on Parade.
Yeah, we sent them. Yeah, we sent them that, and we were like, rip this off. And they were like, yeah, no worries. And then we were just like,
man, when
if they're listening, no, totally.
Like Tom Morello's gonna give a shit if somebody's ripped them off, man. The Machine is the record instrument. He doesn't. But when I did live at the Apollo, they say, oh, pick 5 songs you want to walk out to, okay? And this is like series 20, so a lot of music's been used to this point, right? So you want to use something different and everything. I gave them they were like, pick 5 songs and we'll see which one we can get clearance for. So I gave them a Rage Against the Machine song, an Audio Slave song. I wanted to just go out and just pop, be big, loud and heavy. I basically picked a bunch of different rock groups. I picked a Welsh band from Neath called Buffalo. What the fuck? Shit, I can't believe I've forgotten the name of it. Cut this, Jose.
He's Googling.
It's Buffalo Summer, I think. If you could Google that just to make sure, because I feel like shit that I've forgotten that because they're friends of mine in the band. That's why I picked
Not anymore.
But Buffalo Summer. It is Buffalo Summer, yeah. So I picked this song by Buffalo Summer and another one by a North Walian band called Hazard. So I picked like this list of music, sent it off to them, and they were like, yeah, you can't have any of those songs. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, we can't get clearance for any of those. I was like, well, one of the bands I know, and they'd be cool with me using the music. And the other one, Hazard, the reason I know about them is my friend owns the like independent record label they're on.
So you 100%.
And they'd be like, yeah, we'll sign over the rights for it to be played on Live at the Apollo, whatever. And they came back and they were like, no, you can't have any of them. Pick another song. And I was like, well, if I wrote the song and like kind of came to you with a song, could I use that? And they were like, yeah, as long as you're willing to sign a release form and, get on. I was like, well, I'm just going to write my own song then. So I'm the only
Great.
person in 20 series who's
Fantastic.
walked out to their own music on the show. But you sent them like a track and were like, yeah, can I have Bulls on Parade? And you ended up with a tune that's got that same kind of impact and
pretty
stuff.
much,
So,
yeah.
man, I wish I had that option. I wish I had the money to kind of like send it over the time, just to write it myself. What's the biggest show you've done? Because obviously you've played some of these kind of huge events.
Yeah, I guess biggest, it depends on like how you define it. So like, I guess there's two types. So if you say biggest, what's the biggest crowd I've ever wrestled in front of?
Yeah, let's hear that one first.
Let's do that one. It's either I did even my WWE debut. So that was the O2 in London. So I think that was sold out. So maybe that was like 12,000 people, I think, that night. It's either that one or it's when me and Mark did Monday Night Raw at the Cooperative up in Manchester. So that, I think, again, would have been like over 10,000 people. Wow. So that's the biggest number-wise. So one of my students asked me recently about that, and I couldn't give him a definite. He was like, "How do you not know how many people?" And I was a bit like,
"You weren't working the door."
I tried to count them, but I couldn't. Like even to hit, but again, when you're like starting out, you know those numbers, but once it goes over a certain point, unless somebody is, I even tried to Google it to have a look, and it just didn't have a number.
Right.
So I was like, I don't know the official, but
just
it was
approximate,
over 10,000. That would be it. And then for me, when you say the biggest, as in like what it meant to me, we wrestled at the Motor Point Arena in Cardiff. So that was sold out. So that was 5,000 people, and me and Mark won the NXT UK Tag Team Championships. So we got to become the first Welsh wrestlers ever to hold gold in the WWE, which is wild. Yeah. We got to do it in the capital city,
Wales,
which I got to do it with my mum and my wife-to-be, whatever, in the audience, and my brother. And then on top of it, which is a full, absolute mind-boggling full circle moment, they decided that week to bring in a guest coach for WWE, and it was Adrian Street. So I got to literally only proper time I'd met Adrian was that week. So literally there's a photo when we come backstage of me, Mark, and then Adrian's in the middle of us. So like the guy who like was the one who went off and pioneered from Brynmawr was in the audience when we became the first Welsh champions of history. We always say, and then Mark, on top of it, my tag team partner Mark Andrews, he submitted, because he's in a band called Junior, he submitted music. Could this be the soundtrack for the show? And they went, yes.
Oh my God.
So we like, literally me and him is like bucket list ticking stuff off. It's like, you couldn't, if we wrote this, it's too unrealistic.
But yeah, that's not going to work in a movie.
You're going to become the first Welsh champions in the capital city of where you were born with your best mate, one of your best mates you met on the first day of training. And the guy from your town who's a hero will also be there. And your mate will also be the guys with the soundtrack and the music. And we'll put your family in the audience to tick it all off. And we're like, Yep.
Wow.
And that exactly happened. So
it must have been quite the party after.
My honest God, again, full circle moment. We win, and we're like celebrating, and then the referee says to us, "You can get in the crowd." And as soon as that said that, my brain just went Eddie Guerrero, Brock Lesnar, when he's just in the crowd for the championship. So we just jumped straight in the crowd. So it is just like I still think about it now and be like, unreal, like ticking all those things off. But yeah, that was just, I remember a couple of weeks before when it was looking like this was going to be the match and this could happen. And I was like, if this does happen, Mark, we'll be like the first Welshman in WWE to hold gold. And then he was like, no, there's got to have been a Welshman before us. And I was like, they had signed other Welsh people, but they had just never put gold on them. So he was like, no. And he was looking through it, and Mason Ryan from North Wales, who went to work on Raw, Mark's like, sure, you won the tag belts with Punk. And I was like, nope, looked it through, didn't. Nixon Newell, who's Tegan Knox. She's from, she's going to kill me, Bargoed, there we go. And she'd been signed, and she was in NXT and stuff like that. And she had never won gold. And Mark's like, oh my God. So when that happened, it was just absolutely unreal. And I just always just think about, even though like we've left the company since then and we've done other stuff, that's the one thing that can never be taken away from. If there's another Welshman or a Welsh woman down the road.
You were the first, man.
Yeah, we're the first.
That's incredible.
So that's the biggest, really.
I was gutted on Live with the Apollo because I was like, I enjoyed it and stuff, but I was having a drink and I was like, oh, I got to be, I was like, oh, I've got to be the first I knew I wasn't the first Welsh person on Live at the Apollo, because like Rod Gilbert's done it, you know, and a bunch of others and stuff. I was like, oh, well, I must be like the third, right? And he was like, no, we've had like, you know, Kiri did it, Rob Brydon did it. I was like, oh, for God's sakes, you know, he started listing more and more. I was like, right. I'm like, for the first Spanish person, he was like, no, Jen Bristol did it. I was like, for God's sakes. And I was like, first Welsh Spaniard though, right? And they were like, yeah, the first Welsh Spaniard, you're okay. I half expecting to pull out the card and be like, you didn't get to the top of the list on that one. So it's impressive, man, when you get to be the pioneer, the one who reached the top of that summit first, you know, and everyone can look up to that and be like, I want to do that, you know, kids or whatever. Where were you staying in Cardiff that night?
Yeah.
where did you stay, man? Which hotel?
Was it the Radisson? Maybe it was the Radisson. They always put us up in WWE. Always put us up in great hotels.
I'd imagine they don't book shit.
You're not
staying in the Travelodge off
it was,
the M4.
it was always good. But the worst part about it is like they were like we did it and then they're like, oh, you're on BBC Radio Wales. I think it was like at 7 a.m. the next morning.
No.
Oh my God. So we still went out. We still went out.
Of course you did. You just won the tag team.
We still went out. But we went and spoke.
Did you have to go into the BBC studio for it? Oh man,
we were hanging. And we had to wrestle the next day as well. Yeah, I know.
What a schedule!
I know. It was wonderful. But it was also
where
awful.
did you? Because obviously your family and stuff were there. Did they all come backstage with you straight away, or did you meet them all after? How did that work?
Yeah, we came backstage. My mum's a weird woman. My mum's she is as typically Welsh Valleys woman as you can absolutely find. Like, she came back and she was obviously, I always say, she was obviously very proud that it happened, but I don't think she knows how to show pride in any way, shape, or form. So it came back, and my brother, who's like, is a big wrestling fan, and we were wrestling together when we were younger. To him, it was like, oh, this is pretty cool. We're backstage. But we came back, and I was like, oh, what do you think? And my mum was just looking around. She's going, is that William Regal? Like, she was just naming wrestlers that she thought she'd saw, and then she thought she saw somebody else, but it wasn't them. Is that? I was like, no, that's not them. And she's like, okay. And she's just looking around trying to remember the obscure wrestlers.
Just trying to be involved. I get it.
I think she was just more like, oh, backstage. This is quite nice, isn't it? But not understanding why she was backstage or any of these things. She's just, I think, Mike Hitchman said to me before, because I said all these things, oh, we've done this, we've done that, and my mum always says she's proud of me, but she never really shows it. And he just kind of says, I think maybe our dreams are just too big for our parents to understand. And when he said that made me like, oh yeah, maybe that is the thing. Maybe it's so big to them, they just can't comprehend what's happened. So they just go like, oh, okay. And I go, oh, that's kind of made things a lot easier since he said that.
Do you walk around? Did you have the belt to take with you immediately? Did you walk around Cardiff with the belt?
Well, it was like Saturday night. You walked in Cardiff Saturday night. The Valleys are in there. I'm not going around with gold on my shoulder.
That off,
oh no, I'm in the Valleys. I don't know how to walk around with my goods.
No, it's in the back seat of my Astra, covered with a coat. Thank you very much. Nice, man. What did you? Was there what kind of bars did you go to after?
I can't remember. I really. It's
got to be a blur, especially because 7 a.m. start.
Yeah, it was. I'm not sure. Did we? It was either a couple of days before or that next day. I can't remember because we had 2 interviews on BBC Wales, and we did it with Carol Vorderman, which I thought was wild. I can remember just being like, "You're Carol Vorderman," and she's lovely. If you've ever met her, she is lovely.
Have I got news for you with her? She was amazing, man.
She's
and
so
she's
lovely.
Welsh, half Welsh,
yeah,
half
she
Dutch.
is. Yeah, so she was great. She's lovely. But yeah, it was. We went out for a bit, but it was more the ones that were like trying to be like. We were clock watching at the same time because I thought to myself, like, they've put this championship on us, and it's not just having the championship. You're kind of like, you're now one of the faces of the brand. So like, they want you to do this interview, they're making you do media, and I always find that they'd have certain people do media, and then some people would never be asked to do media again. Whereas I felt like me and Mark were always kind of given a lot of media.
Sure.
And I think it was because we'd always have a bit of a laugh and a joke with them, and they liked that. So then our PR team would be like, send Mark and Flash.
Personality is a good thing.
So I think so that was another thing, was like, oh, they've given us now, maybe we should show up and be rested and stuff like that. So we still, of course, went out and had a few drinks and had a good time, but it was very much a case of...
Did Carol join you? Did she go?
I wish. The wife will hate that, but yeah.
We'll cut that out. We'll cut it out. Just say it's all right. I made Carol Vorderman. I didn't make her. I didn't like hold the gun to her head. But she recorded a video because Michelle, my partner, couldn't come to the Have I Got News for You recording. So Carol recorded a video for her, and I sent it to Michelle. Michelle was like, "What the fuck? I got a video from Carol Vorderman on my phone." So she treasures that. That's quite a beautiful moment. What's next, man? What do you got next on the plan? You got this school here you're running. You said you're going out to Toronto soon?
Yep. So we've got 4 schools. So we've got one in Newport, which is the original. one in Cardiff, one in the West Midlands, and then we've just opened up one in Toronto, which is wild because New Wave Wrestling is what we call our backyard promotion. So we always kind of say, like, how wild is it? No need to be going to get signed with WWE, but New Wave Wrestling now has like these 4 schools in all over the world, really.
That's a fucking big wave as well. It's made it all the way over
all the way over. So that's kind of like, that's really, really cool. So we're going over there next month to do some shows and do some coaching. I don't know. It's hard with wrestling. I feel like doors are never fully closed, so you could turn on and say, like, oh, are you ever going to go back to WWE? And you never really know what's out there. Like, we've had a few chats with like AEW and stuff like that. So that might be a bit exclusive. I know Mark wrestled there recently, and I couldn't, unfortunately. We were supposed to be in there together, but my mum was ill. And they've got other shows here in the UK, so maybe we'll end up doing some stuff with them. But for me, like, for so long, I think that I look back on my career, and I look back on those big moments, and I probably just didn't enjoy them as much as I should have. And I think it's more the case of when you're younger and you're hungry, it's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next? And I've been doing this like professionally now. What's this now? 16 years. I'm professionally with a little bit of backyarding before, like nearly 20 probably. And it's probably, not say, I guess you never know, but you probably look at it and go, maybe there's more years behind me now than there are in front of me, especially with me being a professional athlete and stuff like that.
Because it's a physical,
of course. So like, I don't know. I think for me, it's just about enjoying it. I'm still honestly living the dream. I think like I've achieved more than I ever thought I would. But like recently we did a In It Together festival up in Chester. And there was a battle royal on where a lot of my students were on, even though they were just in a bit of a battle royal. And they were just coming out and they do a little bit of kicking and punching, they get thrown over. But there's a few of them who walk through those doors on day one and you couldn't even get them to say a word. And then watching like this young lad, Alec, and he couldn't get him to say 2 words when he first came here. And then he came up on the stage and he was hitting all the hands of all the kids and he was doing his pause. And I remember just looking and feeling this absolute pure joy and going like, oh, I haven't felt this much about wrestling in a while. And that's not because I don't love it, but I think it was just such a pure emotion. And I just went like, I think that's where it is for me at the moment. I probably will have those moments for me in the ring where I'm like, oh, that was special. Yeah. But I think I'm getting more enjoyment out of watching other people achieve their dreams now. And it probably is a really good place to be because I think there's so many...
It's a healthy place to be.
Yes, because there's so many professional athletes who get angry and bitter when they have to walk away from the sport.
We were talking about this in the car as well, man. Like there's comics who've been going a long time and you just cannot get angry at the new crop coming in and doing well. You just got to be happy for them. And otherwise, it's a short trip to the bottom, man, to be bitter and stuff. So is there a lot of like vices and stuff in wrestling? Is there like, do people, because the thing is, it's such a high, such an adrenaline. Like with stand-up, there was a huge cliche of like, in the 80s and 90s, people would say like backstage was just like cocaine as far as I could see. Do you know what I mean? Like, they were like, how do you maintain that feeling of being on stage and that kind of like rush and that excitement? So people would turn to that or booze, long into the night and stuff, chatting. And I've certainly like, done my share of keep trying that night going as long as humanly possible, even when I've got a 7 a.m. interview in the morning, But is there, what is the main kind of like thing to stay away from, I think, back behind the scenes in wrestling and stuff?
I think in the 80s, especially with the workload of the likes of like Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and stuff like that, and they were doing like 300 shows a year and stuff like that. They used to say like it was like 7 days a week, 2 on a Sunday. That's what they used to be able to do. And I think it was they would be partying as well. So there probably would be a lot of drugs going around and stuff like that. But then on top of it all, I think what everyone has seen over the last 10, 15 years is a lot of wrestlers dying young. And
That's it, yeah.
And then I think people then go, oh, and then the new generation start going like, oh, okay. And then I think it has curved and changed. There's like wrestlers like Edge now is like, if he's not 50, he's nearly 50 years old and he's still going. And he's looking great and he's in the best shape of his life. So
he's Canadian, right?
He is Canadian, he is. He's a friend of mine as well. So, he is. Yeah, very cool guy. But I think it's a case of, like, I think people are understanding that if they can't go out there and expect to be athletes and then also be entertainers at the same time if you don't treat your body like an athlete. So I think people are understanding that like people do want to go out and have a drink, but then you do that, it's gonna hurt you the next day. I know that I've had friends that have like gone out on heavy drinking sessions and had a match the next day, and the chance of concussion goes up through the roof. And it does, because obviously you're tired, like your brain isn't functioning properly, one knock to the head and you've got a bad concussion, and that can really ruin people's careers. So I think really over the last couple of years, I think people have started kind of going, right, okay, I need to train like an athlete, I need to be like an athlete, which probably makes for a lot more boring stories, but then it makes for much longer careers.
Yeah, sure. Longevity is like such a huge part.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen anyone puke in the ring?
Oh, I've puked in the ring. I've puked in the ring. I puked in the ring. I puked under the ring.
Yeah, but you're flipping around so much. It's probably travel sickness or something.
Mine's more, honestly, like I always say, is I get like really bad like performance anxiety before I go out, and maybe it's become more of a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like now I feel like I need to be sick before I go out and have a match.
Mark Nelson, comedian, told me exactly the same thing.
Like when we won those championships in WWE, I'm not even lying. Like the music starts to play, I start to be sick into this little bin. There's like Triple H there, Shawn Michaels there, William Regal there, looking like, is he okay? And I just go, I'm all good, and we just walk out and then have it. Like Mark Andrews, my tag team partner, like a lot of the times now, he doesn't like, I think he asks if I'm okay, but it's more him just being polite. He just doesn't really, he knows that this is just how it is.
Sure.
But it is just a case of, and I don't get it all the time, it's like if I'm really like, okay, I'm nervous about this one, I think my body just goes, I don't feel it, I don't feel nervous, but then also I go, yeah, I need to go be sick. And then I think I'll do the one sick, and then I'll go out, and I'm okay.
Do you think maybe that's a Welsh thing as well? Kind of like, halfway through a night, somebody will puke up and go, right, I'm ready to carry on
That's
going.
me again. That's me again. I'm definitely always the first one to be sick. Definitely. Yeah, we're all good to start again.
What's your meal of choice? Because obviously you got to regiment your diary pretty intense, right? You told me about what the breakfast you had earlier.
Yeah.
What was it? 4 eggs?
It was 4 eggs, 3 chicken sausages, and then a bagel. And I had some peanut butter because I wanted to get some good fats in. Yeah.
Do you have like a cheat day or anything where you're kind of like allowed to eat whatever you want?
We don't really do cheat days. It's more like a cheat meal, especially when I was really cutting and stuff like that. It would be like a Friday. My brain would just be like, you got to get to Friday. And then maybe you got a little bit, not extreme, but like on that Friday then I'd know what we're going to have in the evening, and I would just ramp up all the cardio and everything in the day to really make it feel like that. But for me, like, I think it is just pizza, right? And I think it's just it's a boring one, but you can have so many different things with pizza.
Pizza's one of my favorites.
It is. It's like you can have loads of different toppings. You can hit all the meat and stuff like that, but then you also have different fillings. Like when Domino's do the hot dog stuffed crust, I'm all over that. You've got different dips to dip it in. Like that is it. It's pizza. And especially, I feel like what will happen is I'll be on a really harsh deficit or a cut, and then we'll do Domino's on the Friday or whatever, and I'll wake up on the Saturday and I look fuller because of all the carbohydrates I'm just taking in, but also it's so salty that my skin is so tight. I was like, I should eat pizza all the time. If I do that, I look very, very different. But yeah, I definitely have tried a few bits and pieces. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, maybe a good burger. I do love a good burger. But then there's a place in Stafford called Timmy's, and they do a great burger, fantastic burger.
Shout out to Timmy's.
Yeah, Timmy's is great. They do a fantastic burger and some dirty fries. So it's either Timmy's or pizza, because I think those are the go-to. I experimented with loads of different stuff, but if you only got one good cheat meal a week and you get that wrong, oh my god,
it's ruined your week.
Oh my god, you are just there going
out the window,
and you never want that. I don't trust them again then. So they're the ones. Gotta get it right.
Well, for prep, in terms of obviously like you're saying, cutting, and because you're trying to accentuate everything, right? So you're trying to. It's the same as bodybuilding.
At the moment I am bulking. So at the moment I'm taking in close to 4,000 calories a day. I'm fed up of food.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. I bet you're properly sick of chicken, is it?
I'm fed up with chicken. I'm fed up with potatoes. I'm fed up of rice. I'm not fed up with steak. I still quite like steak.
Okay, but, that's a good one.
But the worst thing is, honestly, it's like it'll be 11 o'clock at night, and I'm like, I've got 600 calories to eat, and I will just literally just be there. I've got a thing in the bag now, which is like Greek yogurts, 80 grams of peanut butter. It's nuts and there's oats in it. It's all just mixed around. That tastes nice, to be fair.
Yeah, you got
a little bit of chocolate, a little bit of chocolate spread in it to help.
What's the worst thing you have to eat in order to do this? Like, what's the thing you actually resent having to put in you?
Honestly, I like veg. I hate fruit.
Fruit?
hate fruit. I don't know why. Like I hate fruit. So I have this shake that has like over 1,000 calories in it at the moment, and I put a banana in there to just get rid of it, but I can still taste it. I hate fruit. I can't.
I don't like bananas personally.
I don't like bananas. I don't like apples. I don't like fruit. I just don't know what it is. Love veg.
Yeah.
Love a sprout. Give me a sprout. Love sprouts.
Okay, savory guy. Good to know.
Love sprouts.
Okay. Do you when you're what does your partner do, by the way? Forgot to ask.
She's got many different hats. So we met each other in university. So she has a master's in fine art. She was a visual merchandiser for a while, but then again, you're still, even though you're being creative in that, you're still stuck in retail.
Yeah.
So at the moment, she's at a school and she's doing like technician stuff. So that can involve, she can be cleaning and stuff like that, but then this week she did a mural on one of the walls and stuff like that, and she was like very pop arty and stuff like that. So she's an artist, really.
I was going to say, I think that goes well together, because at least it's not like she's working an office job, listening to you like telling tales of the different parts of the world. At least she's doing something creative and interesting for her. You know. When you were a kid, what did you think you were going to be when you were older?
Professional wrestler.
You had that in your
mind?
mind?
Oh, I'm 10 years old. Like I was just like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. I know, like I got all the other stuff like teaching just to kind of be something on the side, but like I wanted to be a professional wrestler.
Did you do any teaching as part of your course and stuff as well?
And the kids found out I was a wrestler.
That's the easiest way to shut kids up immediately, isn't it?
It works.
I'm going to DDT you through this table, all right?
But like, I just wanted to be a professional wrestler. I was on BBC Radio 2 recently doing Rob Beckett's Odd Jobs.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And one of the questions he asked is like, "Oh, how did you get into this? Or why did you get?" I was like, "Oh, I wanted to be it when I was a child. Started doing it with my friends, and now I am it." And I think that was the one that kind of really gave it away.
Yeah.
And he just like, he was like, "Oh, that was the one that gave it for me." And honest to God, I always just wanted to be a professional. And I think that's how lucky I am to just.
Does it not make the jobs you have done along the way, like the Asda and stuff, does it not make it tougher going like, I could be wrestling right now?
I think it just made me appreciate wrestling more.
Okay.
I think it would be like, it really became that escape.
Yeah.
Like it really would be like, I would be on the checkouts getting off till roll and writing out like my moves. I could do this one, I could do this, or designing wrestling gear or something like that. Putting up the close sign about I'm closed and I'm not actually closed, and then they have to come and move that back up and stuff like that. But that's what I was doing it. And then when I was teaching, like I was very much just like teaching them, but daydreaming and thinking about, okay, from here, go to the gym, go do this, go do that. It was always.
What age range was it teaching? Was it like?
So I did do a conversion course as well, so I can teach from Key Stage 2 up to Key Stage 4. So I can teach early learning all the way up to GCSE, but I taught GCSE and A level mostly. That was my thing, because I have a good GCSE in maths, so I could teach up to Key Stage 3. Yeah, Key Stage 3 in maths. And I also have an AS level in biology, so I was able to teach up to Key Stage 4 in that. But then most of it, I would be teaching art because of my art degree.
Did you ever bring wrestling into the classroom, as in like maths class? Right. If I spin this much off the top rope.
It was more like you get some of the younger ones, and I think somebody clocked on. And how they clocked on was quite funny. There's a guy called Adam Maxted who was on Love Island.
Okay.
And he's a wrestler as well. So me and Adam are friends. So all the kids obviously love Love Island. So I kind of kept it very, very, very quiet. Got a stage name. How they ever gonna notice me? And then I think Adam had posted something on his socials. So I just commented. I think maybe saying something like he was looking jacked. I was like, looking great, mate. And then obviously he'd replied to it, and one of the kids obviously just clicked on this thing and gone, "Oh my God!" That's how they found out. But they were more impressed with the fact I knew Adam from Love Island than they were that I was actually a professional wrestler.
Just asking you questions about him all the time.
Or they would say sometimes the kids would go like, "Oh, can you show us one of your videos?" And I would say, if we get our work done at the end, last 5 minutes, I'll put a video on. And I think that's a very good tool with children if they know there's a reward coming at the end of classes. You can do stuff. Yeah.
Nice, man. Have you got any previous students who've like messaged you since or like gotten into wrestling that way?
There's one lad, Kyle, who I knew he liked wrestling, but I don't think he knew I was a wrestler. And like, there's a thing in wrestling called like Bullet Club, go too sweet. So I knew he was a wrestler, so I would go too sweet. And on the way to, and then to the point where there was kids going to me, "Sir, too sweet," but they didn't have a clue what it was. There were always kids just doing too sweet to each other around the school.
Yeah, it's like the 6'7".
Yeah,
nobody knows.
They don't really know what it is. But he I think carried on being a fan, and I think he has said that he wants to get involved in wrestling. He wants to do it, but he hasn't come here. He's local, whatever, but he's never come here. So I don't know. Maybe it's one of those things where he's like, oh, I will try it at some point, but he hasn't. But he is a wrestling fan, I know that.
Yeah. Is there anything you want to promote to the people listening?
I guess kind of like I've started doing these little vlogs on Instagram and stuff like that. Just try to give people an insight into wrestling days, so go check those out. So that's on Instagram, Flash Morgan Webster. But the other thing would just be like kind of my advice to anybody is if you are a wrestling fan, is go support independent wrestling, because I think like you've got these massive global companies that come in from America and they do such good houses. Like there's thousands of people there, and then you have your local independent that maybe will struggle to get 200, 300 people in for the door. You can go watch. Honestly, there's a reason that like a lot of the British wrestlers are doing so well in WWE. It's because we have the best wrestling in the world here. We do. So go to and check out your local independent ones. Look at my Instagram. Look at the stuff I'm promoting or whatever. I'm wrestling all over the place. But like New Wave Wrestling does shows up here in the West Midlands in Stoke. There's New Wave doing shows in Cardiff and Newport. So go check out British independent wrestling and support it, because you'll be able to watch some of the best wrestling in the world for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
You'll be able to get up close and personal as well. No barriers, be able to meet the wrestlers, do all these things. And then a lot of these people will go on to the WWE. And
imagine seeing them on the ground level.
Exactly, that's it. And you do remember those fans. You do. Even when like I was in WWE, I'd still see fans who would support me on the independents. People you see all the time. And it's like, oh my God, how are you doing? How's the wife? All these other things. And you've got that connection with them because they really did support you before you were part of that global machine. So for me, really, any plugs? Just British wrestling. Just go find British wrestling and support it. And if you go support British wrestling and it's a rubbish show, you're just at a bad show. Go to another one. It's the same with comedy. You'll go to some bad comedy gigs, but you can look at the graphics they put out. If the graphics look good, then you're probably in for a good night and stuff like that.
I've told people this before. If you go to a bad comedy gig, right, and some people will do that and they'll be like, "Oh, I'm not going to watch comedy again." And I'm like, "You wouldn't do that with music. You wouldn't see a band do a rubbish and go like, I'm done with music.
Throw your radio out. I'm done."
Yeah, completely, man. Oh, thanks so much for chatting, man.
No worries,
really good fun.
It.
Pleasure.
Thanks, man.
I was tempted to do the whole, what we gonna... Nice one, pal.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
That was Flash Morgan Webster. Great chat. Make sure you follow him on social media. Keep an eye out for his coaching and his wrestling schools, which are now going international, and see if you can catch him wrestling someplace near you. Next week, we're doing something very special. Rather than speaking to one guest for the full length of the podcast, I'm going to be chatting to a bunch of comedians about their worst experiences in comedy. This is going to be a bit of a semi-regular event on the Comedy Ship Side Geek podcast. We're calling it The Worst Ones. So I'm launching that very soon. Obviously, I have my own tales to tell. Recently, I've been on the road a lot. I have racked up, I think, 10,000 miles in 2 months in my 2011 Vauxhall Corsa, living the dream. But I can't wait to see you all on the road. We've got some big announcements coming up soon, so make sure you follow me on social media, add me on my mailing list. Take care.